Blood slowly dripped from Sophie's forehead as she leaned forward in her wheelchair. 1 second, my disabled daughter was laughing happily at the playground. The next, the HOA president, Mrs. Warner, stood over her, clutching a metal pipe. She charged at my phone, yelling, "But everyone saw what really happened." Before diving into the full story, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories. Get that filthy wheelchair off my playground. Her piercing voice shattered the calm Sunday atmosphere like shards of broken glass. As I turned, I saw Mrs. Evelyn Warner, our homeowners association president, storming defiantly across the playground. Her designer shoes hit the rubber floor with sharp, calculated blows. My 11-year-old daughter Sophie stopped in her tracks, her smile disintegrating instantly. At such a young age, she already knew the bitter reality, that some never looked beyond her wheelchair to the shining, effervescent girl inside. "Excuse me," I said firmly, inserting myself between her and Sophie. "You heard me," she snapped, gesturing toward the adaptive swing where Sophie had been giggling just moments before. "This equipment wasn't designed for her kind. It's for regular children." That lovely spring day, the sort where the breeze carries the freshness of rain and the sound of children's laughter, suddenly grew brutally cold. Sophie had been eagerly waiting to see this new community playground built weeks ago. Even with her daily struggles from spina bifida, her spirit never faltered. Her joy remained untainted until now. That morning had been carefully planned. Her leg braces needed to be adjusted just so, and her medication couldn't wait. We were finally ready by noon. I carefully transferred her into her wheelchair, loaded her favorite treats, and set off for the playground constructed by our HOA, one that was supposedly intended for all the children in the community. The area was active when we got there. Children were climbing, swinging, and running about freely, and parents were socializing on the benches around them. I pushed Sophie over to the adaptive swing, designed specifically for kids with physical disabilities. "Push me high up, Daddy. I want to reach the cloud," she grinned. Her eyes sparkled as I strapped her in, and for 20 enchanting minutes, she soared. Her giggles carried through the park, freezing smiles from other parents nearby. She was no longer a kid with an impairment in that moment. She was just a kid, soaring on a swing, experiencing unadulterated joy. And then Mrs. Warner appeared, taking it all away. "Those special swings are for babies," she snorted, waving her hand in Sophie's direction. "Not for that. She's too big, and she's had a turn on that swing long enough. Other children need a turn." I looked around. No one was waiting. In fact, 3 of the regular swings beside us were totally empty. "My daughter can't use those swings," I stated, attempting to keep my voice steady despite the tempest of rage growing within me. "This is the only swing made for her safety." "I don't care what she can or can't do," Mrs. Warner snapped. "Rules are rules. The HOA rules are clear. Everything has to be shared, and no child can remain on for longer than 15 minutes if there are other children waiting." "But nobody is waiting," I said, sweeping my arm toward the vacant swings. "That's not the point," she growled, shouting. "The point is, your daughter is too old for this section. This section is intended for children under 5. Read the sign." I hadn't seen it before, a little weathered sign that was largely concealed by a bush. Sure enough, it read, "For ages 2 to 5. But that adaptive swing, the only one of its kind in the whole park, was put right in that age-restricted area. "Then where is she supposed to play?" I asked, frustration creeping into my voice. "Not my problem," Mrs. Warner replied sternly. "I'm just following the rules. Everybody signed up for them when they relocated to this subdivision." Sophie's eyes began to well up. She could sense the tension building. "I'm sorry, Daddy. I didn't mean to disobey the rules." "You didn't disobey any rules, sweetie," I replied, kneeling next to her and giving Mrs. Warner a look that expressed perfectly how I felt about her enforcement. "Guilty as charged," Mrs. Warner protested, holding up her phone. "I'm taking a video of this breach. Look for a fine in the mail." By now, several other parents had stopped to see what was going on. A few looked sheepish, but nobody came over to stop me. "We'll take the swing," I finally said, not wanting Sophie to be more humiliated. "But she's as entitled to be here as any other child." As I started unbuckling Sophie from the swing, Mrs. Warner approached, still pounding at her phone. "This isn't your family's first infraction," she grumbled. "That ramp at your front entrance doesn't meet the approved HOA color scheme, and the medical supply deliveries. They disturb the neighborhood's look." I stood frozen. Suppressing my incredulity, I buckled Sophie back into her wheelchair, trying to keep my voice soft for her benefit. "Let's go somewhere else to play, Sunshine," I whispered, her nickname from me. We rolled towards the sandbox area, hoping she could run her fingers through the grains. A paved path went directly to it, one of the few accessible elements in the whole playground. But Mrs. Warner wasn't finished yet. She followed behind us, still taping on her phone. "Toddlers are in that area too," she shouted, "and wheelchairs can't go in the sandpit. They ruin the special-sourced, hypoallergenic sand. That cost the HOA thousands." I came to a halt and turned to her. "My daughter has a right to play here," I said curtly. "Leave us alone, please." "Don't speak to me like that," she spat back. "I can have your HOA privileges taken away." Sophie was now crying quietly. Big tears streamed down her face, one after another. My heart broke, seeing the sparkle in Sophie's eyes fade away under that woman's cruelty. "Let's just sit at the picnic tables then," he said gently, trying to salvage something from this trip. As I was pushing Sophie's chair, one of the wheels landed on a fracture in the pavement. The chair swayed, and I automatically leaned forward to push it back in place. This caused me to drop the pack I was wearing. It crashed to the pavement and spilled out some of Sophie's medication, as well as snacks along the sidewalk. I knelt to gather all of it when Sophie's cry pierced the air. It was the sort of scream that makes your blood freeze. I glanced up and saw Mrs. Warner looming over Sophie, a metal pipe clutched in her hand, a discarded piece from some playground repair. Blood streamed from Sophie's forehead. "She was trying to take my phone," Mrs. Warner screamed, her face white, her eyes wide with fear. I sprinted to my daughter. Her tiny body had collapsed in the wheelchair, horribly still. "Call an ambulance," I yelled to the bystanders, my throat scoured with terror. "I didn't mean to," Mrs. Warner stuttered, letting fall the pipe and its metallic ring. I heard no more. My whole world had shrunk to Sophie's bloodied face. Someone shoved a towel at me, and I held it softly to the wound, whispering words I had to cling to. "Stay with me, Sunshine. Help is on the way. I've got you, baby girl." The ambulance arrived within a matter of minutes, but the seconds dragged like an eternity. Paramedics sped over to steady her and took her away into the ambulance. One of them stopped to inquire about what happened. I could hardly answer before a man came forward, one whom I'd met within the community, but had never really talked to. "I have it all on tape," he explained, holding up his phone. "She struck the child with that pipe when she had her back turned." Mrs. Warner's face turned pale. "It was an accident," she stuttered. "She was going to pick up my phone. I just overreacted." The police arrived while we were being driven away. The last thing I could see out of the ambulance window was an officer cuffing Mrs. Warner as she gestured wildly and protested. The hospital waiting room was its own sort of nightmare. Sophie was wheeled into emergency surgery to reduce pressure on her brain. I called my sister. She arrived within the hour to sit beside me during the ordeal. Then lastly, Mr. Thompson, the neurosurgeon, walked into his scrubs. "Your daughter is stable," he told me, and my knees almost buckled in relief. But he looked serious. "She has a serious traumatic brain injury," he went on. "We won't know the full extent until she wakes up." "When will that be?" my sister asked, holding my hand tightly. "Depends on Sophie. She's in a medically induced coma, so her brain can rest and heal." I didn't leave her bedside for 5 days. I talked to her nonstop, told her about our beach vacations, our nights in watching movies, how much I loved her. I vowed to take her to Disney World or anywhere she wanted, far from that accursed playground. The swelling at last began to recede. The doctors were still reservedly optimistic. On the 6th day, Sophie's eyes opened. "Daddy," she whispered. Joy filled me, until I saw the look change. She looked confused, frightened. Then the words that cut deeper than anything I'd ever felt. "Who are you?" she asked, shrinking away. "Where's my mommy?" Sophie's mother had passed away when she was only 3 years old. A neurologist intervened kindly to tell me what had occurred. But nothing could prepare me for the agony of my child not remembering me, or the terror in her voice when she gazed into my eyes. Skipped over the fear and confusion that held Sophie's mind in a grip. Max didn't wonder who she used to be, or what she could or couldn't recall. He just loved her. And in that love, Sophie felt her first moment of safety since awakening. From then on, Max was a part of her recovery. Sophie's anxiety dissipated with him by her side. She slept better with her hand placed in his fur. During those times when therapy was too much, Max was there to ground her. And little by little, Sophie started fighting harder. She recalled the scent of the sea on a family vacation, then a penguin joke I would tell her, and then, one day, she called me daddy without a second thought. My heart was shattered and mended simultaneously. While all this was happening, the case went forward in court. The trial was painful and public. I testified, reliving each moment of that terrible day. But I did it for Sophie and for every child who had ever felt unwelcome in their own community. Mrs. Warner sat expressionless through it all, but when the video was shown, the sound of Sophie's scream, the nauseating clang of the pipe, the blood, she finally wept. Still, no apology ever issued. The jury deliberated for only one day, guilty on all charges. The judge, overcome with public outcry in the tale of Sophie, issued the maximum legal penalty. The enhancement for the hate crime made her not walk the streets again anytime soon. Justice, though, did not restore what had been broken. Healing took months, body, mind, emotions. But Sophie persevered. We left the neighborhood. Too many spirits, too many memories. We began anew in a quieter setting, with broad sidewalks and friendly neighbors. Sophie was switched into a special school, where teachers and therapists worked with her to find her paintbrush joy again. And Max, ever glued to her side, became her ubiquitous shadow. One night, as I tucked her into bed, her head finally clear of bandages, her eyes brighter than they had been in a long while, she turned to me and whispered, "I remember Mommy now. Not everything, but the way she used to sing." I cried openly. "She'd be so proud of you, Sunshine." Sophie took my hand. "I'm going to be okay, Daddy. We both are." And somehow, for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I trusted her. My heart grew, and tears pricked at my eyes. "Yes," I said softly. "That was her favorite song to sing to you. That's where your nickname originated." Sophie rested her head on my arm, continuing to stroke Max unconsciously. "I think I still like swings," she remarked, a little smile playing around her mouth. "Maybe I could try again sometime, with you and Max." I placed my arm across her shoulders, being careful not to overwhelm her with too much feeling. "Whenever you're ready, Sunshine. We'll be right there." At that moment, standing there as the sky deepened to colors of gold and lavender, I knew that healing wasn't returning to who you once were. Healing was constructing something new out of what's left. Sophie would never again be the same little girl I'd raised, but she was still my Sophie, braver than I'd ever dreamed, stronger than anyone should ever have to be, and slowly, beautifully finding herself again. And I too was learning to release the life we'd known, to accept the life we were building, one memory, one swing, one sunset at a time. Looked exactly like she had before the nightmare started, full of light, joy, and possibility. I was there, palms on the swing, vision hazy with tears, hearing her laughter ring over the leaves that rustled in the trees. Max yelped from the side, his tail wagging as if he too understood this was no run-of-the-mill moment. "You're almost there, Sunshine," I said, my own voice cracking. "Just a little higher." She rolled her head a little, her eyes sparkling. "I know this sensation," she said. "I feel like I'm waking up to myself." And in that moment, I knew. Healing hadn't wiped away the past. It had integrated it into something new, stronger, deeper, braver. Life hadn't returned to the way it was. It had expanded into something else, something hard-won and more lovely because of it. Sophie would always wear scars. So would I. But they would be a part of our narrative now, not its conclusion. She leaned back against the swing, face up toward the sky, arms spread open. And with each push, she flew higher.